I'm Sydney Kane,
And I'm Liza Petrov.
and you're listening to Page Fright, where we talk about writing craft, the ins and out of the publishing industry, and our own personal journeys as authors. So let's dive in. We're back for another one.
We are back for another one. What did you get up to this past weekend?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I saw Frankenstein last night, and it blew my socks off. The most stunning, beautiful, sad, heartbreaking. I mean, I was blown away. I was speechless afterwards, and that's hard to do to me.
Yeah, I know. You've said that you have kind of like a high bar. I haven't seen it yet. Everyone is talking to me about it. I I wanted to see it in theaters. It just like the stars just never aligned. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I really like Guillermo del Toro. So,
Mhm. And he really takes a unique view of, well, not necessarily unique view, but really diving into the view of what makes a human, what makes a monster, generational trauma, how we're innocent and then
mhm,
made impure by our caretakers and by the world around us, and
mhm,
how we're kind of turned into beasts. It was just
mhm.
so beautiful. And Jacob, the actor who played the
Yes,
monster,
Jacob
they
Elordi.
actually, hmm?
Yeah, Jacob
Yeah,
Elordi. Yeah.
yes, he was stunning in it, like amazing. You could feel all of his emotions, his rage, his anguish, his love. He just did so good.
Are you excited for him in Wuthering Heights now?
That is literally the actual thought I had was, okay, now we got to see him Wuthering Heights. I think he needs to continue taking on these types of roles.
Well, I saw a different sort of movie. It was based off of an indie video game that came out years ago, and it was directed as like a passion project. Like it was written, directed, like adapted screenplay from the video game because there's no like screenplay in a video game.
Right.
Directed and starred in by a YouTuber. It's called Iron Lung, and it's about a basically, the concept is that all of the stars and planets have gone out in the universe. Humanity is on the cusp of extinction, and there might be some sort of salvation at the bottom of a moon that has been found that is basically just a giant ocean of blood.
Oh,
Yeah. And the whole
wow.
video game, you're in this like tiny claustrophobic submarine that is you can't see anything except for these photos that you can take of the deep, and you start to discover that maybe you're not alone down here.
Ooh.
So it was fun. It was very long, but it was like they delivered on the blood. There was a lot of blood. Anyway, I was really happy about it. There was an ocean of blood.
Wow, that
Yeah.
makes me curious. Like, I should check it out.
Yeah, Iron Lung. I'll send it to you. I mean, I feel like it was in theaters probably for a day, and it was lucky to get that. So
Are you throwing a tomato early?
no, no. I just mean the amount that it was indie. I was like, I can't believe that I'm actually seeing a theater
Oh,
screening of it.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, good for them.
Yeah. Well, I have to see Frankenstein though, because I
Yep.
really did mean to do it earlier in
Mhm.
the year, and I just
Mhm.
like I haven't gotten around to it.
I know. I'm giving you a growing list of things that you have to read and watch.
I can't wait. Oh, I still have to read. I committed to it. I
Tang
haven't done it yet. I have to read that.
Tangled and Tinsel. Yes, I have not forgotten.
Yeah, I do. I I have to. I have to get through a lot of other things that I have to read. But you know what? I'm committing. I'm overcommitting myself these days. But still, I'm committing to this. I'm gonna do it. Promise. Anyway, so should we get to our wait what of the
Yes.
episode?
Yes. So we are introducing a new segment called Stagecraft, where we hone our writing skills. And today we're going to give tips for overwriters and underwriters because
Yes.
each of us struggles with each side of this. You
Yeah.
are an overwriter and I'm an underwriter. So I'm going
Yes.
to give tips for all of you overwriters out there, and Lisa's going to give tips for all of you underwriters. So
Yes.
do you want to go first?
Yeah, I can. I'm really excited to do this because I really, really do not struggle with underwriting at all. This is something like I write too much. And but I don't know, I have fun like every second of it. It's a
Mhm.
great time.
Oh, I
And
can't wait for this. I'm going to learn so much.
I think that some of these tips might help you guys. I'm gonna just be going over three. Let me pull up my notes here. The first one kind of piggybacks off of something that you guys have probably heard a million times. It's sensory details. If you look up like tips for underwriters, one of the first things that you'll see it in every blog post with, helpful craft tips. You'll see it in every YouTube video. It's just include sensory details. What are the five senses? Make sure that you're attaching them to scenes to like make your character's experience more robust. But I think that oftentimes when I read this kind of advice, there's something a little bit lacking to it. So I wanted to bring my own twist to what it means to bring about a sensory detail. So basically, you have the five senses. You have sight, smell, sound, touch, and taste, right?
Mhm.
So you don't want to throw those in willy-nilly. You want them to enhance some part of your story. And what part of the story do you want them to enhance? It's a pretty concise list. It's either they're going to move your plot forward, they're going to tell your reader something about your character, or they're going to address some sort of underlying theme of the story. So, for example, you have a character, it's her first year at college, and she's meeting her college roommate, her freshman college roommate for the first time. She's going into that dorm. What happens in that meeting? So you have a bunch of things in your head. What do you do with the sensory details? So you want to think about bringing your character to life through the sensory detail. It's not just about, oh, yeah, she could see the sun going through the window. She smelled that everything was newly vacuumed, or, there were stains on the wall. Like you could throw a bunch of stuff out there, but what you want is you want to bring the reader closer to your character. So let's take scent, for example. So she goes, she meets this new girl, she gives her a hug, and she smells like weed and men's deodorant. Boom. Okay. And what does that do? Do you want to have that tell the reader that your character is not used to a girl like this, maybe? You could say, "Hey, my main character is coming from a small town. What do these scents tell her? These sensory details tell her, my God, this is the first time in my life that I'm meeting someone that's not like everyone else I know." And suddenly she feels more adult, or she feels nervous about being friends with this girl, nervous about how well she's going to do at college. And then you can attach that sensory detail to greater themes. And the more you do this, the more fleshed out your writing is going to be. And that's one way that you can use details, sensory details, not just to fill out your writing, but use them really smartly to draw people in and connect them to your story.
Oh, that's great. I love that one.
Yay. Do you want to go back and
Yeah,
forth?
I think that's really
Okay,
good.
excellent. Cool. Okay, so teach me, teach me, Sensei. I want to know. I want to know how to write a little bit less than I do.
Okay, so this is an exercise for you to try. So
Okay,
try telling yourself a story that you already know. So I wrote down Goldilocks and the Three Bears because I feel like that is a very well known story.
I got it.
What details do you have to remember or say for someone to get the point of this story? And I think this will be really helpful. So you say,
Okay.
Goldilocks shows up to this house. The door is unlocked. She lets herself in. She sees the porch. These are the facts that'll tell the story. How can I tell you the story without adding in a bunch of details? The bare minimum. That is the structure of your story, or the skeleton for us skeleton writers out there. And you can try to stick to that and write the skeleton of the story first, uh, with adding in details later. Or if you know the skeleton, you can write this bone and then add in a little flesh, write the next bone, add in a little flesh. And I think that'll help you pare it down a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. That sounds really helpful to me because one of my biggest problems as an overwriter is that when I try to take things out, I start feeling like it's a house of cards and everything's about to fall apart. Like if I take out a detail, too many things depend on that detail.
Mhm.
And being able to understand what the bare minimum of my story is, what's the bare minimum that I can get away with, that's really helpful because then I can start paring down later on. Okay, so my second one is all about a different type of detail. It's not sensory detail, but it's more the backstory of your characters. Every bit of backstory for your characters doesn't need to be in the story, but it is really important to flesh out for yourself what those backstories are. If you were to summarize them quickly for someone, what would you say about them? For example, my character comes from a rich family. But okay, comes from a rich family. That's your sentence describing them. Now, the exercise I would recommend, you don't have to include this in your story, is to come up with 2 to 3 very short micro stories that can be a paragraph long each, describing their memories of coming from a rich family. What do they remember about that upbringing? And when you start creating these little tiny micro stories about them, you suddenly feel very fleshed out with that character. And those micro stories, even if you're not including them in the actual novel, they're
Mhm.
going to inform a lot of the actions that your characters take, and that will end up fleshing out scenes because they're going to end up having more emotional reactions to things that happen, and you're going to have to catalog that as the writer. You want to catch that and you want to express that.
I really like that one, especially because one of the main edits I get is we need more backstory on your character.
Yeah,
Why are they at this point?
yeah,
And I think that would be really helpful for
yeah.
me just to get
Now,
to know them better too.
yes, exactly. It was I saw a similar kind of twist on this in a how to write book that I read a long time ago. It was a craft book. It was basically have your write a diary entry from your main character or the character that you're trying to explore, and they're just describing like a mundane task. Like what happened to them? They went to the gas station this afternoon. How would they describe going to the gas station that afternoon versus someone else? Do the same exact type of story, but told from another character's perspective. And so I started thinking on this and I was like, well, I feel like you could spin that off into all these other backstories for characters. And the micro stories for me are really key in going like, okay, I know who this person is and I know how they would react in this separate situation.
I love that. That is so cool. I love character work like that.
I love it too. It's one of my favorite things to do. Okay, you're
S
up.
So my next one is pretty simple. It can work for pantsers or plotters.
Okay.
What I have found is in order to help, it's kind of furthering on this skeleton idea, is to do chapter outlines and not in the
Mm,
way that a plotter does it. Although, if you're a plotter, then great, that works out great for you. You can just write down the bare bones of what you have to have in each chapter. And I'm a little bit of a both. I'm in between a plotter and a pantser. And so what I'll do sometimes is even if I'm on the chapter and I have no idea what's going to happen, I'll think about what point do I want to get across in this chapter and
mhm,
just write one thing that has to happen. Or I'll do 2 to 3 chapters ahead because sometimes when I come up on it, then I'll know, okay, I know what the next 2 to 3 chapters are going to look like. And I'll
yeah.
write just a basic line, basic line, basic line of what's gonna happen, and then you'll start seeing almost like a spine of
Mm,
events,
mhm,
and when you're reading it back to yourself, just that one sentence starting on chapter 1, a
yeah.
story starts to form, like a very simple one,
Mhm,
like Goldilocks and the 3 Bears, and so it's
mhm,
easier, first of all, for you to follow your own plot and not get lost. I'll even do the same thing for subplots. I'll write, "Here's the subplot that's going on, here's the emotional state that's going on," and I'll even just put sad, happy, rage, love, just literally the smallest amount I can put in that chapter. That way it's easy for me to keep track of and
mhm.
it just gets the point across.
I like that one. That's really helpful.
Here, your last one.
This is my last one, and I think that this one is more for the authors who have been asked to add more details, but their manuscripts are already done. So this is where you are doing edits to lengthen your work. It's basically it's to analyze the details you already have. So I think that a lot of underwriters might think like, "Oh, I didn't think of any good details." And she's like, "No, you did. And you were very strategic already about your details, very likely. And all you really need to do is go back through and analyze what you already have and then punch it up. You're not adding tons of new complex information into your work. But what you're doing is you're expanding the amount of words, you're beefing up what's happening by making your details more specific and more colorful. So how do you do that? Let's say you have a down and out PI. Okay? He's
Classic.
classic. Now, down and out PI who, has the classic problems of, and these are nice details. You gave him a drinking problem. He's a debilitating drinking problem and he chain smokes.
Oh
Now,
my god.
those are
Cl
your 2 details, right? You already have them. How can you beef them up in order to expand your writing and make it punchier? Well, let's talk about that drinking problem. Start asking yourself about the detail. How extensive is the drinking problem? When did the drinking problem start? What is his preferred drink? Is his drinking problem so bad he's drinking perfume? Like, push yourself to think of extreme scenarios of your detail, and then you can reel it back and you can go, to that Goldilocks scenario of like, this fits my character just right. He
Oh,
could he could
nice.
he could be going to AA meetings and he hates the lady that runs it. Like something like that, where it's just like, okay, you're adding in that detail. It tells you about the character, but it doesn't feel superfluous. And then, what kind of cigarettes does he smoke? What's his favorite brand? Does he have some sort of emotional relationship with that brand? And then you can intersperse future chapters with, like, you can add little details like the empty carton of his favorite cigarette brand. What, like, he had like his trash can was just over brimming with them or something like that. So that's a way that you can pull out tons of flavor from the details that you already have existing in your plot.
Oh, that's amazing advice, and it really will bring your character to life as well.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I that's really good. I'm gonna be really putting that one in my pocket.
I'm so happy. You know what inspired that? I was reading a romance book, actually. I was reading this one woman's work where the main character, she was a very, like, uptight, gung ho young female professional who was like, the way that she dressed, it it really spelled out exactly how uptight she was. She only wore certain brands, and when those brands were listed, you're like, "Okay, I understand exactly the type of woman you are." Like, she wore her hair in a tight bun, and she would wear Louboutin heels, like,
Mhm.
with the red soles, but only of a certain, like, heel height, and it was
Oh
just like
god.
there was something about those series of details that made me go like, "I get what type of young, competitive lawyer you are." And you know what it ended up doing? It spiced up that romance that I was reading. It really,
Yeah.
like, her character came alive in comparison to, the guy that she was being matched up with, and I was like, "Ooh, this is really fun."
Yeah, that's so true. That is true, like, because every character, you have to form it in your mind, and the
Mhm.
more details you have, the more solidified it's gonna be.
Yes.
So, I love that advice.
Yes, exactly. But they have to be, like, specific to that person, you
Yeah.
know? Like, everything is like a little building block that so you get this really concrete individual.
Yeah, like, not just blonde hair, blue eyes,
Mhm. Yeah.
tight clothes. It needs to be very specific.
Yeah, so, like, you have those basic details, and it's just like, "Okay, is she a bottle blonde, or is she naturally blonde?"
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And, like, that tells you something about that person.
Love it.
Yeah. Anyway.
Alright, so my last one is it's interesting that you brought up senses because my last one is senses,
Mm,
but mine is to help you pare it down.
okay.
So when you walk into a room, so I'm thinking specifically now for thrillers and horror.
Mhm,
When your character walks into a room and there's a murderer standing there, you're not going to walk in and notice the chandelier.
mhm,
What are the pertinent details if you were this person in the room and there's a killer trying to get you? What would you notice? You're
mhm,
gonna notice where the exit is. You're
mhm,
gonna notice the uncomfortable feelings in your body, your palms sweating, your heart pounding, feeling out of breath, weak in the
Mhm.
legs. What are you going to pay attention to? Probably not the smell of the whatever food is cooking, probably
Yeah.
not the time of day. It's gonna be the information that is vitally important. And the same thing
Mhm.
for romance. What are you gonna notice? You're gonna notice the exhilaration, same thing, heart beating. You're gonna notice your partner's lips. You're gonna notice his body language. You're gonna notice things that are important to moving the plot forward. So if you are an overrider and you're talking about everything in the room, like the lamp and the rug and the dog over in the corner, I want you to have tunnel vision and focus what's directly in front of this character, what would they be experiencing, and just write that.
Yeah. I like that. I like that really a lot because it it's hitting that sweet spot with making sure that all of your details are purposeful. Because if they're not telling you something about the character, if they're not pushing the plot forward, if they're not going deeper into some sort of theme, then they don't belong in your story at all.
Exactly.
And
And
yeah,
it'll help you build tension because you're
mhm,
going one thing to the next thing to the next thing to the next thing,
exactly.
instead of just like pausing to smell the roses.
I agree. Like there's a concept that you learn in art school, like when you're learning to draw and you're drawing still lives, figures. It's called negative space, and you learn that basically every object that you see, you don't necessarily have to draw that object. Drawing the negative space, that space between that object and other things that it is next to, can sometimes make your object become clearer and more accurate on the page. It helps you divorce your brain from, like, oh, I need to draw a lamp. When actually you need to draw a series of triangles and rectangles around that lamp in relation to what it's next to. And then it's going to come out more authentically. You're going to actually get to what the lamp is on the page. And
Mhm.
so if you're writing, oftentimes what's not on the page, what you specifically decide not to include, is going to up that tension and create that scene and make it come more alive than trying to just include everything that's in the scene. Like the killer's in the
Exactly.
room, everything that your character's not paying attention to ups the feeling of their disorientation and their fear, and thus the reader feels it too.
Exactly. When I think of horror, I'm most afraid of what I don't know. I'm
Mhm.
most afraid of what I don't see down the hallway, or when you open up the closet and there's no one in there and I haven't seen the face of this monster. Usually, when the face is revealed to me, I'm not afraid in a horror
Mhm.
movie anymore. I usually never want to see it because once I see it, I'm not afraid anymore. And so I think that's a really, really good point.
Yeah, I completely agree. Um, well, I feel like our first real craft session, like, I think that was a nice little step up. I think we're getting into something. Was good. Um, uh, let's get on to our main act.
Yes. So today, our main act is about publishing expectations and how they're impacting the work that authors are putting out into the world.
Mhm.
So, we're talking about deadlines, the amount of books that authors are trying to get out in a year, because now we're
Yeah,
seeing some authors come out, like Frida McFadden is coming out with so many books a year, sometimes like two, three, maybe four. I don't know. I'm just
that's
being
crazy.
crazy. But is that hurting the quality of work that we're seeing?
Yeah,
So, what are your
um,
thoughts?
yes, yes.
Okay, segment done. Let's move on.
I think so. I think that obviously you have to write to deadline, you have to be able to get things out there, but I do think that unfortunately, you'll see it in examples of like, okay, let's look at a, fun new book series, like a fantasy series that's coming out. I'm not saying a specific one, but just like you can see this as a pattern in some of these book series. So the first book, this took like 2 or 3 years to write. It
Mhm.
was it was something that the author labored over. It could be a debut novel, especially if it's a debut novel, they'll have taken extra time. It's a hit. and then they have to come out with the next one in a year. And oftentimes, from my perspective as a reader, the second book, it's not just like a sophomore slump. I like it's not just that the writer's nervous or something like that. I really do think that it's well, they had less time. They didn't come up with as much information as they could have. It takes time to come up with those details. It takes time to come up with those mini backstories and to craft a plot that is complex enough to be entertaining and yet manageable enough to land successfully. And
Mhm.
oftentimes you read those books and you're like, yeah, but there are so many plot holes. And it's just like, okay, well, could you have given them extra time? I don't know. Maybe I'm just being misinformed, like, I'm not in traditional publishing. So, what do you think?
Well, I mean, I think just because you're not in traditional publishing doesn't mean that you don't read those books and you have an opinion of your own. I do have a differing opinion from you,
Okay, tell me.
although I do agree that that happens all the time. I mean, it's almost like yes and. I mean, yes, that happens. You see some of these people that are just popping out books and it's almost like a formulaic feeling
Yeah,
where it's the same thing again, just different characters and a different slightly different plot.
yeah.
I do you do see that, but I also feel like maybe for people like me, I do really, really well when I have a goal. I'm a very goal-driven person. So if I
Mm,
don't have something, holding my feet to the fire, I won't do it. So that's why a lot of times I give myself goals, like how I told myself I can't go on the cruise if I don't finish my book that's
I
due in
still love
December.
that.
I give myself punishments. So I think if you have a goal, then it helps you prioritize, maybe organize better. And also, we have to consider different personality types.
Mm,
So I'm constantly thinking of the next idea, constantly thinking of my books, constantly coming up with new ideas. And so the fast pace really works for me.
yeah.
In fact, I want to move on to the next thing. I just cannot sit still. So that would be hard for me to have to wait a long time. But I do hear what you're saying that if it took me 2 years to write the first in the fantasy series, and that's something totally different because that is dense world building,
Yeah.
a huge amount of time, maybe something that's very different from what I write, like thrillers and horror. So I see what you're saying, but I also feel like it's not always the case.
Mhm. I mean, obviously, just saying a flat yes is, like, it's a
Yeah.
little antagonistic and for fun. I agree with you that there are absolutely tons of situations where I mean, yes, you need the fast pace. It can help it like, I mean, it can help specific genres. I do think that having a faster pace in your basic romance books or almost like the ones that are like purposefully formulaic, like cozy mysteries. There are thrillers that are not formulaic, like there is some that are more complicated, but there are other thrillers where it's just like, okay, I know my beats. I'm gonna hit them the same way every time because the readers expect that the drum beat to remain the same. All of those genres, I can see being like, okay, you need a faster output. Like it's not about creating something new every time. It's making sure that you're reproducing the same hit every time, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's like, okay, I get that. I also get that, not every author is straining under this. Like there are some authors that thrive in that kind of situation.
Yeah. But it also is fed by this consumer market where there's such a high demand.
Mhm.
And there's this fear, I think, that a lot of authors have where if I don't produce a new book to you every 4 to 6 months, you're going to forget about me and
Mm,
move on to the next thing.
yeah.
And, there's, like, this saying of, like, "Keep your readers fed," and
Mm,
that there's a lot of pressure in that. And
yeah.
so I wonder if it's just this dynamic where we want more media, more media, more media, and then it kind of pressures creators to create it, maybe not always the highest quality too. I can see
Yeah.
that side as well.
Yeah, I can see that. I know authors who are just putting out work and
Mhm.
it is so impressive to me. Because like, I don't know. I just can't do it. I don't think that I would be able to put out a book every 4 months, like, that's or every 6 months, like, that's I don't know.
Well, you write really long books too.
Oh, I'm
Like, you
trying
have to
not to. Trying
yeah,
not
but your
to.
genre is a longer genre, I mean. Like, you like,
Mhm,
those
mhm,
that word count is just inherently larger.
mhm.
So it's much harder to write 120,000 words every 4 months, whereas I'm writing, between 70 and 90. There's a
Yeah.
huge difference there.
Yeah. I mean, and, like, especially with horror, because like, horror can be pretty short.
Mhm.
My boyfriend is basically almost exclusively a horror reader, like, you ask him if he's read a horror book, he's probably read it. He's constantly scrounging around looking for, like, literally anything he can get. He will read anything, and he reads these, like, 30K novellas, grotesque novellas that are just really messed up. Like I'm thinking like if you're a writer like that, you can probably put it out every few months. It sounds kind of tantalizing and fun to me.
It does to me too. I've always been interested in the novella world.
Yeah, just put out a bunch. I mean, I'm interested in doing like romance novellas personally because like that's the kind of writer that I want to be. I like slow burn though.
I
So,
do too. I
yeah.
love a good slow burn.
Yeah, I know, it's great. Do you feel pressure as an author to like, you said that you like it, but also do you worry about keeping up with it?
Definitely,
Do
definitely.
you worry
I
about the caliber of your work, like, from the pace? Like, do you think that your 3rd book or your 4th book is going to suffer from a faster pace?
I don't know if the quality will suffer. What I stress about is my psyche suffering. I
Mm,
saw something
mhm.
about Rebecca Yarros after she wrote Onyx Storm, the 3rd one, that she was in a really bad, like, emotional state after with, like, how hard she had to work for that, and that's what I worry about because I'm a type A person and I'll get it done, and so I was actually just talking about this with my husband because I have these 2 books that I'm doing, and then we're about to go on sub with 3 more, and I was thinking, "Okay, what's that gonna do to me if that they're coming out?" Because then my agent told me, "Well, we can put them on an interval release." So we do, like, spring, summer, fall, spring, summer, fall, and I was thinking, "Wow, that would be what am I getting myself into?"
Yeah,
Because right now I can do it, but then what am I gonna be doing, 3, 4 years from now? Am I gonna
yeah,
be able to keep up with that pace? And then if I slow down, will I lose readers? Will my people who enjoy reading my books be upset? What will
mhm,
that mean for getting future book deals? My
mhm,
popularity? I mean, these are all things that I torture myself with all of these questions, and because it's
yeah,
almost like more content. I mean, you even see on social media, the more you post, the more you're in people's faces, the more they think about you, the more
yeah.
relevant you are, and then as soon as you don't post, you fall off the face of the map. So
To a
that's
certain degree, like, I think that there's also, you hear stories about and you know them, like, uh, authors who have only put out just a few books, and they are well-known names because of the critical acclaim of the books. So, I think it also depends on what you're aiming for.
Mhm.
Because if you're aiming to do super well on Book Talk, then I would think that you are setting yourself up for, okay, well, you need to have a TikTok salesperson holding your book up every few months being like, buy this, buy this, buy this,
Yeah.
right? But if you're aiming to be in like, I don't know, talked about in whatever, the New York Book Review, I think that's what it's called, like, and you want to be circulated in some sort of, in this other more intellectualized setting, then, you know, you you might not feel that pressure to constantly be putting out. The greater pressure for you is to put something out that specific names in the industry are gonna go, "Oh, everybody needs to read this one." Like, this needs to be talked about by a certain intellectual subsection of society. Like, that's kind you know what I mean? Like, I feel
Mhm.
like there are different aims. Like, if you're aiming to be in the airport, bookstore, which, like, obviously, like, that would be freaking incredible, you might need to be ready to write 50 books in a row like those airport book authors have,
Yeah.
you know? So
Yeah. I think for me, it's never really been about who's talking about it. It's always been, I want to be a career author
Mhm, mhm.
where this is just my job and any book that I write gets published. And that's just how it is, you know? I don't
Yeah,
wanna think about the struggle I have to do to get those published. I want this to
yeah,
be my job, and so how
yeah,
can I make that sustainable? How can I make an income off of this? Because it's not super
no,
lucrative
no,
unless you are a best-selling author.
yeah,
And so how is this sustainable? And those are the questions that really get to me because if you are doing 3 to 4 books a year, then that's gonna be good for money because then you're gonna have your
yeah,
backlist selling. Every time you have a new release, you're gonna be
yeah.
growing your audience, and so that'll help your career grow, but then is that gonna cause burnout on the other end? But then if you
Mhm.
don't do that, how can you build your career? If
Yeah,
you're not a best-selling author, I mean, where
yeah,
you just have
exactly.
that one. So those that is the question that I'm constantly trying to figure out, and maybe I don't have to know that for now, maybe a few years from now, I'll have to figure out what my pace is, but that's what really stresses me.
Yeah, I completely get that. I mean, I think that way that some very prolific authors have done it in the past is they basically settled on a specific pacing and plotting routine that they're gonna do each time, and they kinda just plug and play. Like, we were kind of complaining about it earlier, but I do think that it fits in for certain genres where readers have specific expectations about plot beats and when
Mhm.
certain things happen. If you basically are going like, "Hey, I'm gonna write 5 books at the same time. I'm gonna come up with 5 different basic plot concepts, and then they're gonna play out in these varying ways, and I'm gonna outline them, and then I'm just going to push them out." I feel like that it is doable, and you are an entertainer. You are entertaining your reading public, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. If I
Yeah,
was to pursue this, I would do that.
I guess you have to know what your style is, what your ability is, like, what you're capable of doing. Do you
Mhm.
see yourself? Because I know maybe putting multiple books out a year is not for you, but what would be an ultimate goal for you, like 1 book a year, every other year?
It would My goal would be, so this first book, like every author says, it's like the first book you write, you're learning to write a book.
Mhm,
So it has it has a lot of kind of internal work that I had to do baked into how long it's taken to write. So I'm hoping that my next book would take me a year to 2 years. That's what I would hope. Because like I already have the concept. I have a lot of the Uh, I have almost everything that I need to start writing it, but you know, I don't know, like, I haven't actually taken the plunge yet, and I don't know what's gonna stop me. But maybe I'll be a more mature writer, and I'll just be able to write it faster. So, one book every few years, 1 to 3 years is something that seems doable to me,
mhm.
but I don't know what's gonna happen if I'm able to land an agent. They might just be like, "Well, that's impossible."
No, I
They're
don't
gonna
think they
figure
will.
something out, you know?
No, because there's a lot of authors that are just one and done. Just get it
Mhm.
published and then never publish again.
Interesting.
That's why a lot of agents, when they have an interview with you or they have the agent call, they'll ask you, "Where do you see your writing career going?" And they wanna hear that you have plans for other books or that you wanna keep writing because a lot of writers just have 1 book in them, and then that's it.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I get that. After this experience of, landing on the plot that I wanted to write, getting inspired by it, falling in love with it, and then going, "Oh my god, I can't finish this." I understand it. I understand them. It takes a specific kind of person to be able to put out good plots over and
Mhm.
over and over.
It does. It's hard. It's hard to take off and land every single time.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Take off and then stay in the air and everyone's having
Oh.
a good time and no one's getting bored.
Mhm,
Like
mhm.
that second act, man. Like, you're playing around, but y don't play around too much
I know.
'cause readers will fall off.
I have the same flight path every time. I take off and then I land, take off, land for the first 10,000 words, and then I'm in the air soaring, feeling really good about myself, and then from 30,000 words to 40,000 words, there's major turbulence. And so, like, and then the ending is pretty smooth, but the
That's
beginning
good.
and middle, these passengers don't think they're gonna make it there alive.
That's funny, and then most of the time they don't because you're
That's
cruel.
Yes. Very true.
Yeah,
Yes,
you're
they
cruel to them and you're cruel to your readers.
yes, exactly, exactly. That's so
But your
funny.
readers want it.
I'm like, I come on the intercom, I'm like, "All right, now we are going to land, and it is time for all of you to die."
But you know what? Your voice works really well for that. That was nice. I like it. Anyway, it's really nice to know that there are different agents out there who are very aware that not every writer has the same desire or path, and you end up in that agent interview and they might go like, well, we're not going to be a good fit then because I'm looking for someone that wants to do more book output. But you might also end up in uh, this interview with this agent, and they're going, perfect, I'm in love with your story, I want this story to be out there, you'll be a one and done, like if you can't produce another, and I think I can sell this. So
Mhm. Mhm.
both things could happen.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And
Yeah.
then if they want you on their list as one of their authors, then but you're not maybe a high volume author, they'll just have add another person on their list and then
Hmm.
hear from you every few because I've heard some agents say they only hear from their authors like every couple of years. Then all of a sudden they'll have a book and then they won't hear from them for a few more years. Then they'll be like, "Hey, I have another book." So maybe you
Yeah.
could be like one of those.
I mean, that sounds heavenly to me, kind of. um, because if the book is good enough, then people will respond. So yeah. Well,
All
I
right.
think I think we covered this.
Yeah.
I
Let's
think we're
move
good.
on. So now it is time to throw a tomato, where each week we
Ooh.
give a 1 or 2 star review of a literary classic to show that no matter how successful you are or how loved your books are, you're always going to get bad reviews. So let's
Yeah.
desensitize ourselves.
Okay. Well, I have a great review.
Oh, I can't
Uh,
wait.
yeah, I I picked um, the the Iliad by Homer.
Oh, okay.
I picked a classic of classics, and I searched around for some 2 star, 1 star reviews, and I just this one was particularly funny. I really liked the way that this person wrote their bad review. I don't know, I'll just read it. So, what is the big deal? That's the title. All the zombies kept telling me to purchase the Iliad and were raving about how intellectual it was. The age of it should have been a first clue. Really, a rather boring read that is tripe with inept ideals. Homer Simpson was named after this guy. But I believe that he has more insight into the subject matter than the original homeboy they call Homer. Good for
What?
you. Sorry.
I can't
Good for
even with
using to
this.
set your coffee mug on and start a fire with in the fireplace, but beyond that, it is really a lot of rubbish. I wish Penguin Classics would actually publish classic reading material instead of a lot of blah, blah, blah. 5 people found this helpful.
What? 5 people found that helpful? I can't
I thought that was
even.
really funny. I'm like, oh, well, you don't have to like the Iliad. That's fine. It doesn't have to entertain you or anything like that.
Yeah.
There are other things to glean. Um, but yeah, I
I
I just really liked it.
just a this made me think of fun fact about me of just how insufferable I can be. In high school, I used to starting in middle school actually, I've always been obsessed with media and movies and telling stories. And so every
Okay.
time we had to read books, we had to give a book report, but I would never write a book report. I'd always get special approval to make a video book report where I would give like an interpretation of the book.
Am I living in one of these right now? Like, is this what is this what you looked like for your video book reports
Yeah.
when you were younger?
Well, no, no, you have to imagine home recorder with me being the director, with getting whatever friend I've enlisted, and
Okay,
this was
wait. Can can we possibly like show one of these on the podcast one of these days?
I would have to I don't even know, it would be in my mom's house, I would have to, like,
Sh
contact her and see if she has, like, any of these because I don't know
Yeah.
it, but there was so many where I would just go and I did one on the Scarlet Letter, one on this
The Iliad?
Yeah.
Ah!
And I would just have, like, the dresses, and I would be, like, directing everyone like, "All right, and cut, and now show this, and I want you to drape yourself over the couch," and I would just think of all these different
You sound
ways.
adorable. I
So
love that.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's
just a
fantastic. I would not have participated in any of your videos. I would have
well,
been too I had so much stage fright when I was younger. Like, I didn't do skits in class. I tried to get special permission to not do skits. I would have been like, "Let me just write it. I'll turn it in, and no one needs to see me speak or do anything."
well, I don't know. If you had me in your class, you might have been forced because just think about our podcast, how nervous you were and how you didn't want to put your face on here. And look, I'm very insufferable. I made you get on
Okay, let's
here.
call you inspiring instead of insufferable. Let's do
I'm
that.
like, I'm like, this is what we're doing. I'm directing us now in a podcast, and this is what we're gonna
Yeah, she was just like, "You wanna start a podcast?" And I was like, "Uh."
You were like, not really. I'm like, okay. Well, anyway, here we're starting a podcast.
Yeah, she sent me a list. She was like, "It's gonna be this expensive. We're gonna use all like this is the tech that we need to buy. It's this easy. I already learned the editing
Software.
software." Yeah, good memories. Okay, well, what is your tomato? Are you
Oh,
ready to throw it?
yes. So
Okay,
I did the strange case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I couldn't
nice.
remember if you've done this one already,
I
but
haven't done this one,
okay.
but I love that story.
Well, this one is a very unique review because they managed to throw two tomatoes in one review
Ooh,
in a very succinct way. So it's
okay,
1 star and it
okay.
says, even more boring than Frankenstein somehow.
Ooh. I was wondering how they were gonna pull that off, and then damn. Wow, they didn't like Frankenstein. Why if they didn't like Frankenstein, why did they think they were gonna have fun with, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde? Like,
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. But I commend their effort to keep trying.
yeah,
And
yeah, I
also,
do
ever
too.
since you
I
made
commend their
that
effort.
ever since you made that observation about people not liking things that bore them,
Oh, yeah,
I've noticed, even the one you just read and this one, you're so right.
yeah,
People hate being bored.
yeah. They can't stand it.
I
I
think it's
mean,
because of time. Like, your time is your most expensive asset.
yeah. Also, boredom feels like torture. Like,
True.
solitary confinement is, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
literally torture. This is
Mhm.
like, "Oh, your book made me feel like I was staring at a wall," or something
Mhm,
like that.
mhm, mhm. I just think some people are born to appreciate art like this and some people aren't. Like, I'll never forget I went to go see The Phantom of the Opera on Broadway, and the part when the Phantom's crying and being like,
Mhm.
"Krister," I was, like, bawling my eyes out, and I looked over at my husband who had already eaten an entire bag of candy and was snoring next to me at the climax of the show. I have never been more offended in my life.
Your husband is so funny. That's hilarious. I don't think I've ever fallen asleep in a live show.
Oh, how
Like,
could you? Only
yeah,
only a psychopath could do that.
I've fallen asleep, like, in a theater watching a movie. I've done that,
Oh, me too.
definitely. I've
Yes.
been guilty of that,
Mhm.
yes, but never a live show.
And The
Wow.
Phantom of the Opera? It's
I
amazing.
It's
Uh,
so funny. You bring up these, like, classic things that I'm just like, "I haven't seen it. I don't know
you haven't
it."
seen The Phantom of the Opera?
No.
Let's go to New York and see it on Broadway.
Okay.
Or you
I'm
could
down.
look up
Let's
they
do it.
have on YouTube, I'm pretty sure, the live London version, and
Okay.
that is an epic one as
Oh,
well.
the one thing I don't do is watch recordings of stage performances. I find
Nor
that really boring.
No, I do too, but this one's not. You will love it.
Hmm,
Just add
hmm.
it to your list. Add it to your list.
I'd rather take a girls' trip to New York and watch it live. Okay, well, I know that we have one listener question for this week. Let me pull it up real quick. Her name's Deborah. Okay. I'm just gonna read it verbatim. Okay. Often in romance, and more often in romanticides, the male hero starts out as darkness personified,
Ooh.
only to become by the end of the book, a moral paragon who respects women and loves his mother. Damn, cutting. Um, besides being a simple wishful thinking, I'm trying to get through the title. Besides being simple wishful thinking, it often feels like quote unquote decline of a character. Do you think this process is inevitable? Can a romantic lead stay as morally compromised as we found him?
Wow, that is a
Yeah.
good question.
um, okay.
I think a couple of things.
Okay.
One, I would love for a character to stay with all of his claws and see if we can still love him by the end.
Okay.
Because the point I think that women have a tendency to want to change a man to make the bad boy turn good, and
Ooh,
there's
ooh, ooh.
nothing sexier than when you got a man who's a bad boy and then he's turned good for you.
Oh,
But I would
yeah.
love to see a book where he stays bad
Mhm.
and see if she can still love him, because it's always like he has inner demons, he has issues and traumas, and this is why he behaves so badly, but if I just communicate with him and show him empathy, he'll turn good, and then he'll treat me good, and then I'll treat my mother really good too, you
Yeah.
know? So
I mean, there's always a point for me where I'm just like, the character was like darkness personified, like this
Mhm.
listener says. Just like they're killing like hordes of people. They've tortured people. They've done terrible things,
Mhm.
but they will definitely go down on you for like a half an hour. And I'm like, no, I'm
God.
sorry. I just don't buy it. Like, what are you talking about?
I was immediately thinking of Damon Salvador from The Vampire Diaries. He was such a bad boy in the beginning, and then
Mhm.
he turns into this fluffy teddy bear by the end. And I don't know, I think it's very sexy. I just wanna see if someone can pull this off, is keep him a bad boy the whole time, and will the audience still love him by the end?
Yeah. I mean, I think that with specifically, if we're talking about romance, there are two issues here. This is how I would break it down. One is that if you have a romantic lead, that is something essentially different from any other character type. They have to be bad to a point, and they can't cross certain unforgivable lines. So, for example, like, sorry, they can't be a pedophile. They're just not gonna struggle with that issue.
No.
That's just something that is not gonna happen.
Mhm.
Um, they might be, like, in your really dark romances, some sort of serial killer, but there is going to be some sort of thing that pulls them back, some sort of explanation or pain that allows you to empathize with that character enough so that they can be romantically heroic. And I think that it is a really tough line to walk, and I actually don't think that a lot of authors think that hard about it. They're just like, "Okay, it feels like they can do certain bad things, but in general, he loves his mom. In general, he's gonna do some very giving sexual acts."
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
that's gonna be part of him too, and it's just like, you have to think back to the details, you have to think about, like, okay, what are all the details that are just going to be part of his personality that you have to stick with? You can't lose them, or else you essentially declaw your main lead. So, like, there's that line that you have to walk there with any romantic lead. And then there's this other aspect to it of they've gone like, a romance is about going through character change via the romance, via this other person. You met this person and your love for that person changed you, it essentially changed you in certain ways so that you grew as a character. And I think it's really hard to create a character arc where that person, you know, if they started out not treating your lady nicely, then I don't know how you can wrap up a romance with them continuing to mistreat her by the end.
Mhm.
Like, that just doesn't seem like, well, that's kind of a shitty ending for a romance.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I
I
feel like
did
none of these bad boys are actually bad boys. They're just
No.
misunderstood.
Oh, oh, oh.
And to me, it's so I as someone who doesn't like happily ever afters sometimes, as
Mhm,
someone who wants to see things a little grittier, I don't like this rule in literature where you have to have empathy for one of your main characters. I do not like that at all. In fact, that's a common issue that comes up a lot, and especially with my characters, that people
mhm,
have a hard time identifying and having empathy for my characters because I don't think you should have to have that. You just
mhm,
need to hear the story for what it is. Why do you have to empathize with them or see their
mhm,
side or take their perspective or
mhm.
these are things that are just rules that I think should just be taken away. I
Well
want to have a new story.
well, there are certainly books and movies that don't follow those rules. I just think that they are essentially in a different type of writing. For example, you have a really fun classic movie from like the early 2000s with James Spader, Maggie Gyllenhaal, The Secretary. That is an adaptation from a short story. The short story is unbelievably bleak about a like kind of about a power dynamic relationship between this woman and her boss and like the sexual relationship that they have and like it's pretty dark. Um or not dark dark, but it like bleak really is the word for it because you're like this is not a happy, inspiring ending. You don't hate the 2 characters in it. They are challenging to you. They're interesting to interact with. But it's not necessarily like all, happiness. And the movie decided to make it into a different genre in the adaptation, a romance where there is a happy ending. And you could see how they had to change the characters. And I found both of those stories really interesting. It's just they were essentially different types of writing. And I think that there are markets for both. There's tons of readership for both. There's tons of writing out there that does break those rules. This is our disagreement though. Like what needs to fit into specific genres and what
Mhm. Mhm.
what doesn't. So,
Yeah, I'm more of a let's not have rules type because I don't know want to know what to expect when I read a book.
mhm. Yeah. I fully understand it. I'm very much like that as well. So,
All right.
yeah.
Well, thank you for that question. I don't even know if we answered it. I feel like we got off on a tangent, but
I mean, no, I think that we kind of addressed it. Oh, we tried.
we tried. That's
Yeah.
all we can do here.
I think it's a fun question, and I think it's something that we can think about more, and possibly do, in a "Wait, what?" segment,
Mhm.
in a
I agree. Yeah,
future
that'd be
episode.
fun. Yeah.
Um, okay, well, uh, let
I
me
have a question for
just
you.
oh, you have a question for me?
I do.
Okay, what is it?
Um, is women's literature in the toilet?
Um, I think that that is a really big question that we're gonna have to answer next time on
Ah,
Page Right.
all right, fine. I'll wait till next week.
I love this. I love the way we end these.
I know, me too. It's
Well, we will see you all next week on Page Right. Thank you for watching.
Yep,
Bye.
thanks for listening. Bye. You just listened to Page Fright. Don't forget to like and subscribe and write to us at pagefrightcontact@gmail.com.